Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Harangue with Haley. This week's topic is why I am pro-choice. I've been pro-choice since high school, college. I've always known if I was not ready to have a child, I would not even question it. I wouldn't have a child because in my mind, children, babies are pretty important. You need to be ready mentally, physically, emotionally to deal with raising a child. And if I did not feel like I was ready for that, I wouldn't even put me nor a child through that. And of course, if I was ready, then I would have a child. And that's what being pro-choice is about, is you have that option. I hear people saying being pro-choice is being pro-murder. You're supporting murder of a child. Well, I view as having a child, being pro-life and having a child in a situation that is destructive, that's murder. You're putting a child in a situation that they have no control over. They are coming to this world as a new being, and you're already putting them in a situation where they're not going to have much growth from. And for me, that's important. We have to see the big picture rather than just the initial of having a baby, because I'm sure everyone knows it's a lot harder than just the easy part, for some would say, is having the baby. The hard part is raising the child. And so I think that's important to look at. You have a lot of people that say, well, why don't you just put the child in foster care? We have foster care systems that can children can be raised in. And of course, that sounds nice. Everyone, has the picket fence idea that, the kid will go to foster care and at 5 years old get adopted by a nice family and, go to college and everything will be peaches and roses, and that's, it's going to be like Annie, basically, where the billionaire comes and they get adopted. Well, a lot of times that doesn't happen at all. There's a lot of reports about kids being abused in whatever way in foster care systems. In New York alone, there was 28% of children reported being abused while being in that system. And a former 7-year foster care youth reported that about 9 out of 10 kids reported being abused in some way while in foster care systems throughout the nation. And so that's something to be said, is you're putting, because you can't raise a child, which again is your choice, you're putting them at the hands of the government to care for them. And at that point, you don't know what will happen. Yes, there's always a chance that they can get in a nice family, but you don't know. So it depends on how you look at that. People that live and swear by foster care system, there's a dark side of it that personally I wouldn't be my first option personally. And again, everyone's different, but that's the choice and pro-choice and why it's there, because you have that option. On the other side of having a child, for me, I feel like at the end of the day, say I did decide to have a child, if I know that the father is in the picture, okay. Well, a lot of times, maybe the father either did not want a child, did not know it was his, doesn't want it. Maybe you don't know who the dad is. So now you find yourself as being a single mother. You decided, you want to keep the child. Well, this is a lot of the poverty we're seeing in the U.S. Single mothers have a much higher risk of being in poverty. And again, that's not all, but a lot of the people you're seeing that are in poverty are single mothers, women that are having children, and either they can't support them or they for whatever reason they're in poverty. And so on top of that, another statistic that does support this is that 59% of households that are on food stamps are single mothers, as well as 1/3 of single mothers are food insecure. So again, it just all bundles together with the lack of opportunity, I would say, that being a single mother can have. And again, that's not everyone's in that boat. And if that was you, then that's awesome. That's nothing's against single mothers. It's just saying, for me, I look at these numbers and I see just hurdles that you're having to climb. You have a child, you're a single mother, that's a hurdle. In getting a job, raising that child, taking care of yourself, there's so much that comes into that. And if you can handle that, then do that. But if you can't, I would never want someone to feel that they had to, because they would feel that people would deem it wrong to have an abortion if they needed to. And that's what this is all about. And scientifically speaking, I'm not trying to offend anyone, but it's science, honestly. I remember in biology we learned about, mitosis, meiosis, and that is how cells are divided and how they grow. When you have, meiosis, that is when you have your mother cell, your father cell, they both divide into having 23 chromosomes, DNA chromosomes each. Well, when fertilization happens, both of those cells become one, and mitosis occurs, and that cell essentially multiplies, and that's how the embryo is created. And this happens with animals, plants, living creatures go through this process. And so for me, with it being science, if just as your skin have cells that divide and multiply, your hair, all your tissues, organs, essentially your embryo, that's how it starts. So if you're not ready to have a child, it shouldn't be labeled as murder. These are cells that are growing and multiplying just as it would be if you got a cut in your arm. They grow, they're cells, and that's what it is. And that's science. Those are facts. You can Google it. It's not offensive. This is actual facts. Your embryo, you start out as cells. We all start off as cells. We all start off as 23 chromosomes each from both of our parents that come together in fertilization and grow. That's how we start. And those are facts. Those aren't beliefs. Those aren't moral judgments. Those aren't morals and religion getting involved with what's right and wrong. This is what is written down in science books, basically. So when it comes to something as important as a human life and as valuable as a possible life, I think it should be treated with the delicacy that it needs to be, in the sense that you know yourself best. You know what you can handle. You know the situation you're in. And at the end of the day, it's your choice what you do in that. And if that you feel that that's the taking on the role of having a child, then power to you. And if you feel that you aren't ready for that, you shouldn't feel inferior or less than, or that you are wrong for doing that. Because at the end of the day, it's your body. The child is yours. And if no one's there to help you, it's you. You're the one that's going to have to provide for this new being on the earth. So that's how I look at it, and that's how I view it, and that's why I'm pro-choice. I look forward to haranguing with you guys next week.